What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It's Monday, August 31st, and this is one of two podcasts. We are recording on the morning of Monday for the day of Monday. We're actually recording a podcast for the actual same day that it's happening. What a world we live in. That's because the Jacksonville Jaguars made two moves over the last 48 hours or so that require us to do an emergency podcast. That's right. It's an emergency Jaguars podcast in the wake of a Yannick Ngakoue trade and a Leonard Fournette release. Joining us to talk Jacksonville Jaguars, the man who's going through the car wash right now at CBSSports.com on Jacksonville because he knows the team better than anybody else, maybe more than anybody else outside of the franchise, the one, the only, Pete Prisco. What's up, Pete?
What's up, guys? Will, gang.
Yeah, people can't see Debo.
Yeah, but Debo's included, though. He's part of it.
Pete,
I feel bad that you leave him out all the time.
Pete, you don't even see what I'm wearing today. That's why I don't have the video on.
You probably have one of your ugly ass shirts on again. You should actually have like a thing, Brinson, where you guys print up T-shirts. Is Debo wearing another ugly ass shirt again?
I like that idea. Or we do like a T-shirt that looks like one of Debo's shirts.
Yeah,
and
ugly ass T-shirt. Just put that right on the front of it.
Yeah, I like it. Ugly ass T-shirt. Okay, let's dive into this. So the Jaguars released Leonard Fournette. How surprised were you, Pete, on a scale of 1 to 10 that they actually cut him? Going into the fourth year of his deal, his rookie deal. In this fourth year, in this fully guaranteed like fifth-year option? I mean, this is the fourth year of the contract. They get out of the fifth-year option now, right?
Right. Yeah. Look, I'm not surprised that they released him. I thought they would release him earlier, but they didn't know what they had. And when they went to camp, and basically nobody knew what they had. Team knew what they had when they went to camp because they didn't have any off-season work. When they went to camp, in their offense that they're going to run under Jay Gruden, they're going to be a different style. And nobody's going to get 20, 25 carries. So they looked at it and they said, hey, why would we keep him when he's a volume back and we can get out of that contract? So it made sense. They like a kid from Illinois State named James Robinson. Keep an eye on him.
Take a listen.
Yeah, keep an eye on him. He's a guy they really like. People have compared him to Devin Singletary that I've talked to. And, they like their other young backs. Rock Armstead is trimmed down a little bit. He's quicker, from what I hear. They also have Chris Thompson who catches the ball out of the backfield and Zingbo. So they have backs. And again, this is a league where you don't need a guy who can carry it 25 times. I'm going to give Fournette credit because I thought he bounced back last year and had a good season. He caught the ball, but a lot of that was volume because they were behind and he was catching passes and everything else. He still takes – in certain offenses and certain styles, he takes too long to get to the line of scrimmage. He doesn't make people miss. So I have no problem with releasing him because, like somebody said to me up there, they won 11 games the last 2 years with that group. Right.
The teams are terrible. I mean, they had 2,000. So you can't talk about Leonard Fournette without talking about 2017. They drafted him 4th overall in the 2017 NFL.
Terrible.
You killed it at the time. You killed it. You killed McCaffrey, and you said, I like the player with McCaffrey. Fournette, they wanted, and I tweeted this out on Monday morning. You had reported on this podcast called the Roughing the Passer podcast. Never heard of it, but sounds cool. You had, was I hosting or was that just you and Brady then? I don't know.
That was when it was good. It was me, Brady, and Pat Kerwin.
You said on there the Jaguars and Tom Coughlin love Deshaun Watson. They really do. They love Deshaun Watson. So they passed on the opportunity to take Deshaun Watson 4th overall and instead took Leonard Fournette. Now, in 2017, they obviously went to the AFC Championship game, and so they were rewarded over the short term because they had a good running game and a great defense. But long term, it was a disastrous franchise-altering decision because they had to cut Blake Bortles a year later. They got stuck with Fournette, and they passed on a franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson.
Well, the problem was first off, Coughlin liked Watson. But he also loved Fournette. And that was his theory at the time was, okay, we have Bortles, so why not draft a running back to help make Bortles a better player? And in the short term, it helped.
Sure.
But you don't ever draft a running back that high when you have quarterbacks like Watson and Mahomes on the board. I don't care who you are and who you have, because clearly Bortles was not the guy. So it was a bad decision. They'll admit that now. That was a terrible decision. You don't draft a running back there. He had some good moments for them. But again, like even that one year when they went to the postseason, you take away a 90-yard run through a hole that I think I could have got 40 on against Pittsburgh, and his numbers weren't nearly as good. He's a serviceable back. That's what he is. He's not anything more than that. So I understand it was a bad decision to draft him.
Sort of the irony is, to a degree, is that they should have realized that when the Cowboys took Zeke Elliott in the first round, and they were gifted Jalen Ramsey the year prior. Like you should have, that's when you have to realize, like when somebody takes a running back in the top 5, you are getting great value at another position as a result of it. The Jaguars benefited from it. And then they came back a year later and then did the exact same thing when, they basically helped gift other teams the opportunity to get Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes.
Let me give you some background on Tom Coughlin and his running back lust. Okay. In 1996, they had the second overall. Was it second? I think the second. Yeah, the second overall pick. And they were dead set on taking Lawrence Phillips. He compared him to Jim Brown. That's how much he loved him.
Wow.
But at the 11th hour, they found out some late information from Nebraska. They went to Nebraska and found out even more.
He's a bad dude.
It was a bad dude, and they went in and they backed away from it. But he was taking him at second overall in 96. They ended up taking Kevin Hardy that year.
Correct.
Now, they already had Natron Means. So, and they had drafted James Stewart. So think about that. That's how much he loves running back. And I'll give you another one. Fred Taylor's rookie year, 98. Go to that draft.
Okay. Let's see. Yep, I'm here.
They had 9 and 25. They had 9 and 25 in that draft, right?
They did. That is correct.
Okay. He was on the phone with the Chicago Bears when they were on the clock.
At 5th overall.
Trying to trade 9 and 25 to the Bears to get Curtis Enis.
Fred Taylor?
No, to get Curtis Enis.
Oh, my God.
He loved Curtis Enis. You see the pattern there? The physical back, Lawrence Phillips, Curtis Enis, Leonard Fournette. Tom loved that style of back. And that might have worked in the 70s and 80s and 90s, early 90s. But it wasn't working anymore. And so that's why when he drafted Fournette. But in hindsight, he ended up with Fred Taylor and Donovan Darius, two guys that ended up being really good players. Taylor is arguably a Hall of Famer. So I just think when you look at it, Tom had to get his big back, and that's why he went out and he drafted Fournette.
Well, and it shouldn't be surprising to anybody that has followed Tom Coughlin at all for any stretch of the period that he would want to have a big bruising back and a great defense and doesn't care necessarily that his quarterback is a lead or not. I mean, even, and we're not getting into the Eli Manning discussion, but
come on, he won a Super Bowl with Eli, but he also, 2 Super Bowls. He also had Tiki Barber there, and it took Tiki. Coughlin didn't love Tiki initially, remember? Tiki fumbled, and it used to drive him crazy, and then he ended up that relationship kind of got a little bit better, not great ever, and they won Super Bowls. But no, he likes the big back, and it's just not that big back game anymore. It just isn't.
The projections from Sportsline and Stephen O have Jacksonville with Fournette. They're projected to win 4.5 games. Without Fournette, 4.4 games. Their win percentage changes not at all, and their playoff percentage goes from 2.8% to 2.6%.
He has no influence on that team whatsoever. None. Yeah.
Now,
so I'm okay with it. Now, where does he wind up? That's a good question. Somebody mentioned Kansas City. Hey, by the way, you don't think they would have traded him if they could have got something for him?
Yeah, they would have taken a 7th-round pick for Fournette at this point, just because get rid of the money.
Nobody wanted him.
Right.
Nobody wanted him for that contract. They couldn't.
What about New England?
What? Yeah, but they have the kid Harris they picked, so they like him.
And Sony Michel. I'm just thinking they clearly want to run the ball. Why not bring in bodies? If Fournette was motivated, Fournette and Cam Newton would be in that sort of offense that they appear to want to run. Would at least be intriguing. Yeah,
he'll end up somewhere. What about? Well, Tampa they love Ronald Jones now supposedly, but
but they don't
have any money either. They don't have any money. Miami's building to something though. They don't need that. They have young back. No, Miami's not. Kansas City might make some sense, but and because he cut the ball out of the backfield pretty well last year. But a lot of that, again, was volume stuff late in games when they were behind.
What about the Washington football team?
But you got to remember, no, I don't think about that quarterback. Fournette had his issues. Let's be honest about it. He wasn't well liked at times, but he had his issues off the field as well, and had issues on the field. Remember when he sat with his helmet on and the whole next to the bench and on late in the game? I think he's matured a great deal, but there's probably some teammates never really took to him.
Okay.
The culture was terrible. That culture was terrible with that 17 team. It was awful.
And you wrote a whole story. It's a great story about how like the Jaguars got sort of peaked and then like just the fall of the Jaguars, basically. And it's crazy that it feels like, and I know this is sort of pandemic brain talking, but like it feels like 40 years ago that the Jaguars in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, and when you're built that way, you're going to crumble. It's the season was an accident.
Like
I always say that. The aberration seasons, the teams that have the ball bounce their way, run the football, play good defense, have that chance to get to the Super Bowl because it happened as an accident, and then it goes away. And I see your buddy Evan Silva sent out the tweet about they had 7 Pro Bowlers on that defense and none of them are there anymore.
Yeah.
But really, when you look at it, because we're going to get into the Ngakoue trade. Yeah. When you look at it, Ngakoue no longer there. Calais Campbell, no longer there. Malik Jackson, Telvin Smith.
Miles Jack is there.
No, Telvin Smith, AJ Boye, Jalen Ramsey. Okay, let's go through one by one and see.
Let's do it after the break.
Okay, let's do it after the break.
All right, after the break, Pete will go through these one by one, and we'll talk about the Yannick Ngakoue trade. Okay, so let's go through them one by one. You mentioned the defensive players, the 7 All-Pros. By the way, Evan Silva, who you referenced on Friday's show, Talking Fantasy, he did predict that Fournette would be cut. So that's that. It's a good call.
Yeah, it's a good call.
What do you are you basically saying like, all right, like Ramsey was good, but what are you gonna do? I mean, like, what's the justification?
They did not want to trade Jalen Ramsey.
No.
They were dead set against it. In fact, the owner, from what I hear, said, nope, not unless somebody wows you. Well, the Rams wowed them.
Sure.
2 1s and a 4. That's a wow trade. So they sent him packing. Plus, he was a pain in the butt in that organization. I mean, he moaned and groaned. He's part of the reason why the 17 team went in the wrong direction.
Sure.
So they got rid of him.
They had a lot of young talent, and they had like Calais Campbell's a veteran, but he'd been signed in free agent.
Really, when you look at it, I'm going to go through this, okay?
Okay.
Boye was signed as a free agent, and they thought his play regressed, so they didn't bring him back. And he and Jalen, by the way, never got along. They were this corner tandem, and they didn't get along at all. There was always a bit of a problem between the two of them, from what I was told. Then Calais Campbell, they would love to have kept him, but he's got up in the years. He might have been their best free agent signing ever, and that's saying something because they had some good ones in Keenan McCardell and Natron Means, and Leon Searcy. So you look at that, and he's the one guy that they wouldn't have mind keeping, but they just thought the way the team was going in the direction that it was time to cut. He wanted more money. He wanted money. They would have given him a pay cut and he would have stayed, but he's an older guy. Malik Jackson didn't play last year, remember? After they let him go, he got hurt again. I like Malik, but again, how old is he? He's on the slope side of his career.
Yep.
Telvin Smith retired, and by the way, he was an awful guy in the locker room. He was one of the problems, from what I was told. He was the guy who dragged him down. And then he got arrested. Remember, as soon as he got released, they arrested him. He's facing charges now. Yep. So that's not a law. I always thought he was too little. Anyways, teams ran at him. He made some splash plays, but he would get blown up in the run game. He was too little. And then that brings us to Ngakoue. They wanted to keep Ngakoue. They offered him.
Look, you've been reporting since he made a stink about this, that the Jaguars wanted to get 2 first, 1 first. I mean,
let's start from last year.
Okay.
Last summer, he held out, remember? He wanted, or he was slow to come in. He was in a holdout, but he wanted a contract, and they offered him almost $19 million a year, and he turned it down. Now, once he turned that down, the relationship between Coughlin, because he can be a grudge holder, and Ngakoue went rotten. Coughlin started saying he doesn't play the run that well. He's too little. We're going to pay him $19 million to rush the passer, da-da-da-da-da. And that's where the relationship went crappy. Well, once it went crappy, Ngakoue went out and played. And if you look at his sack numbers, they've gone down a little bit. I love the guy. I predicted him to be Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago, and it didn't work out that way. But he loves the game. He plays hard, and he's a good practice guy. But it got into his head, and it started to become a money issue. There's no question about that. So they tag him. He's not happy with that. He fires his agent, who, you know how these things work. An agent will be told by the team, hey, you know, maybe we can work out a deal, but let's go out there and see what's out there. Well, the agent got nothing. The team got nothing. There were no offers for him. Lockenford keeps killing him because they could have got something better in April, May, before the draft. No, they couldn't. They had no offer. The Raiders had 2 1s, and they didn't want to make a deal. They couldn't
They wouldn't even give up 1-1 for Ngakoue.
No, they couldn't get a 1. There was no offer for a 1. And so they go into the summer. He fires his agent. He's still moaning and groaning. And he had the tag. He hasn't come close to making $18 million in his career. I think in his career he's made almost 5. That's it. That's a lot of money to be turning down.
And let's be clear, too. And as part of the trade to Minnesota, he took a huge pay cut.
Which is the dumbest thing I've ever
he took a $5+ million pay cut, and he's heading to a state where there's an income tax. So now he doesn't have income.
It's
now he
about
doesn't,
$500,000 more. So
at least, yeah, I don't understand why he wouldn't just play out.
Play the $18 million. Go to Jacksonville. Okay, well, it got to that point. They come to camp. They had already drafted Chase on, the rookie out of LSU, who they love. Yeah. And so they look at it and they said, hey, if we have Ngakoue here, what happens if Chase on and Josh Allen are on the field and he's not? He's going to be moaning and groaning about it. He's going to become a problem because he's playing for a big contract.
Yep.
So they look at it from that standpoint. So they came back to it. The best offer they had for Ngakoue was the one they got, is the one they took. They had nothing. And that goes to trade and pay. Nobody wanted to trade the picks to pay him. Right. And if you look Clowney was traded to Seattle in the same type of situation. What did Houston get back for Clowney?
3rd round pick.
And Houston paid $8 million.
Sure. So
think about it from that standpoint. And that didn't work out for the Seattle Seahawks.
The deals that you had, the deals that you have to make for these pass rushers are like the D Ford or Frank Clark, where you trade him early in like free agency. You know what I mean? And like when teams are looking to pay and to spend on a pass rusher, and they're willing to give up more because they know that they can't get somebody out in the open market.
What did what they get for D Ford?
Go back 2 seconds. They got a first for Frank Clark. The Seahawks did. And then the 49ers gave up a second, I think, because the presumption was that they wouldn't be as good.
But like Tunsil got a big haul back, but he had 2 years left on his deal.
Right. And Ramsey got a big haul back, but he had years left on his contract. When you're a franchise tag unhappy pass rusher, you're just not going to get. And I wasn't discrediting your reporting. I was saying
no. Lockenford was, because he said they could have gotten more if they had traded him before. They were trying to. They didn't get anything.
They were never getting a 1st round pick for Yannick Ngakoue.
No.
Unless it was like a very late 1st round pick. Right.
They weren't getting any. They would have taken the one. And here's the other thing, though, Will, is the owner, quite frankly, didn't want to trade him at first because the bad look of the organization.
It looks terrible.
Malcontent. But you know what? They got to the point where they said, do we really want to keep disgruntled players around that are dragging these young players? Because they're a young team. Why would you allow them to drag the young team back into the abyss where it was? They're getting out of the abyss. I hear that this team loves to practice. Well, I'm talking about from the locker room mess. These guys love to practice. They love to play. I heard a story about Minshew the other day. The right tackle, Jawan Taylor, jumped off sides, and he jumped him. This is a 2nd-year quarterback jumping the right tackle. That didn't happen under any of these. Bortles didn't do it. Nick Foles was out there, wouldn't do it. These guys didn't do it. He has that. Now, whether he's any good is a question that needs to be answered, but at least the culture is different. If you go,
so you're saying he's got the fire in the belly?
That's what I hear. I don't know if he's any good, but he's got fire in the belly. There are a lot of people out there that think he's good. So
I like Minshew. I mean,
he's going to put up monster numbers this year because I don't think their defense is going to be very good.
Right, their defense is going to stink because it's young and they traded everybody away. I mean,
they might start 7 rookies.
That's a terrible defense. The problem.
No,
for
not
the
on
Jaguars,
defense, not on defense, just on the
overall.
on the team.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a problem. The problem for the Jaguars in the look is that their first round picks since Dave Caldwell arrived are let's see. Luke Jokel,
that draft was atrocious.
I won't blame anybody for the 2013 draft.
Yeah, that draft was one of the worst of all time. Eric Fisher went first overall. It's a terrible draft.
Yeah, and he played 4 years and was
he stunk.
He stunk, and then he left and signed with the Seahawks. Bortles in 2014.
Okay, you missed on a quarterback.
They doubled down on the extension. That was the real.
That
problem.
was a bad mistake.
Dante Fowler in 2015, they traded him. That was a bad pick.
But again, you're going back to a guy who didn't go take part in his rehab and was always late for meetings and didn't care. And I think he's grown up, which is why he's a better player now.
Yep. Jalen Ramsey in 2016, it was a great pick. It didn't work out. They did get a good return for him. I won't fault him for that. But I do think it is a bad look when you can't lock down superstar players who you take in the top 5.
And again, Coughlin had a lot to do with that relationship going bad, from what I was told. If the Rams aren't good and they finish 4th in division, that's going to be a steal for that pick.
That is true. That's fair. And then they got C.J. Henderson to replace him, so who knows?
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette in 2017.
Terrible pick. Terrible pick.
David Bryan, 29th overall.
Who's going to start? Well, they could have taken Lamar Jackson there, but he's going to start this year.
Coughlin wasn't taking Lamar Jackson.
No, he's going to start there this year, though.
Oh, man, I didn't even think about David Bryan was right before Lamar Jackson. And then Josh Allen and
who's going to be a star.
And Caleb Chazon. Yeah, I mean, it's too early to tell on those 3 guys, but
no,
they look like
they're going to be good players. Though.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that they. Yeah,
but you kill them for their first round picks. You also got to give them credit. Everybody's killing them for trading Ngakoue. Well, he drafted him in the 3rd round.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, look, he's done a good job. I mean, he found Myles Jack in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I don't. That's the one that perplexes me a little bit with that team is paying Myles Jack all that money.
Yeah,
but he was miscast when he got there. They stuck him at strong side linebacker. Then they stuck him in the middle. Now he's playing the position he should have been playing all along, weak side linebacker. But Telvin Smith was there, so they couldn't play them both together. So now he's playing there with Schobert in the middle. I think he'll be much better in this defense.
Okay, well, let's hope so. Either way, the defense probably won't be very good, and it will not have Yannick Ngakoue.
They're going to be young.
Again, run it back.
Maybe I'll tell you that, though. Hamilton, the rookie from Ohio State, supposedly killing it at defensive tackle. They're going to love him. Henderson, it will start at one corner. One of those young safeties could push Ronnie Harrison to the bench. The kid from Daniel Thomas from Auburn. They could have. I'm telling you, they could have 7 rookies starting. If you count Chenault, Colin Johnson and Chenault both could start. Think about that at receiver.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Colin
Johnson's been killing it, and so is Chenault, by the way.
How many games did I love Chenault. I would have taken him with a 1st round pick. I know
a lot of people that up there, and he's been compared to Bolden and Andre Johnson.
He's so strong. I mean, if he's healthy, he's a monster.
And Colin Johnson, somebody joked that he better stop making plays. They're going to call him Calvin Johnson.
Jeez, yeah. Jaguars hype trade. So what? 9 wins, 10 wins? What do you think?
I think they're. I'd watch out if I were the Colts on opening day, though.
Ooh, I think the Colts. I think that line is interesting. What do you think? Over under 4.5 wins for the Jaguars?
I think they'll get to 5, so I take the over.
Bad team, frisky but young.
They'll be in games. I think they're going to stay in games. They're going to stay in games, a lot of games, because I think they'll score points. They're going to score points.
I agree. I think Jay Gruden will put up. Jay Gruden and Doug Marone. Jay Gruden and Gardner Mitchell will score.
Yeah, and the offensive line's going to play better. Think about Cam Robinson. He's been one of the guys that was dragged into the abyss and was hurt, and now he's healthy and he's in a contract year. He's going to play well. He's in the best shape. It's the classic case of I'm in the best shape of my life. I'm healthy again. I'm in my contract year. If I go out and play great left tackle or good left tackle, he's going to get a monster extension from somebody.
They got $18 million, yeah.
The right tackle, Taylor, is going to be a star. I hear that Norwell and Linder are in better shape or better having a good camp. And so they'll be good they'll be okay on the offensive line is not going to be a problem. Because the problem was always, here's one of their problems with Fournette, even if he was there.
You have to fit the offense around Fournette.
Well, you also don't have a tight end who can really block. They had problems with the edges. And so it took him a week and a day to get going. Come on, if there was a hole there, he was great. Would I call him the magic man? He took that title away from Toby Gerhart. He could turn a 2-yard run into a 6-yard run, but he could turn a 75-yard run into a 5-yard run.
Yeah.
That's the magic, man.
All right. Let's get out of here. You got to go do more of the car wash. You got to do CBS
Car
Sports.
wash. Yeah.
You'll be doing picks during the season's here. I can't believe it.
Next week.
I know. Does it feel like it to you?
Are we going to do We're doing picks on Thursday normally, right? But
Picks on Friday show.
But we don't include the Thursday night game.
That's right. We'll record on Thursday.
I'll give you an early pick for the Thursday night game.
Okay.
Lay the points.
The
Oh God, take the over.
I agree on the over.
I'm in the minority on the other side with the Texans. I think they got issues.
I think the Texans will be bad, but I think they keep it within 10. I don't want to
bet on it, buddy. There's our first disagreement.
I won't bet on it personally. I'll tell you that much.
Take the 10. Take the 10.
I ain't fading Andy Reid off the bye when he won a Super Bowl. He's got an all season to prepare.
Plus his team. Look, remember that game would have been a blowout. They started slowly in the playoffs. They blew them out anyways. It would have been even worse.
They covered the 10 points after being down 24-0.
Yeah.
They covered the 10 points at halftime.
Yeah,
it's crazy. All right, at Prisco CBS on Twitter. Watch him on CBS Sports HQ. Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon.
See ya.